Hello and welcome to Chrome Computing. In this video we'll be looking at what is the Chromebook and what is Chrome OS. So that might sound pretty basic stuff if you're familiar with Chrome OS and the Chromebook. However, if it's all new to you and that's the reason why you're watching this video, I'll go through everything you need to know about the Chromebook and Chrome OS. So the first question would be, what is a Chromebook? Well, a Chromebook is simply just a laptop. That's all it is. So the word Chromebook is all that it means, is that it's a laptop. You also get a Chromebox as well, which is a desktop based version, much smaller than what you might imagine when you think of desktops, big great machines. They're much smaller, and that's a Chromebox. They're both the same in the sense that they both use Chrome OS, and that's the main difference. So when you hear the word Chromebook, all it's really referring to is that it's a laptop, but the main difference compared to other computers running Microsoft Windows or Apple iOS is that it runs Chrome OS. Now, Chrome OS was created by Google. Now, the advantages of the Chromebook, there's quite a few. When they was first launched back in 2011, they were really cheap laptops compared to other laptops on the market. So that's one of the big advantages. And that's still an advantage today. You can get budget Chromebooks for less than £200, $200 if you're in the USA. But then since the last few years, Chromebooks have actually started to rise in price as the specs have risen as well. So you can get budget Chromebooks, mid-level Chromebooks and high-spec Chromebooks. So they range from the 200 mark right away up to over 1,000. So it all depends on what you want. The reason why Chrome OS is so popular and it's getting more and more popular by the day is because it's fast. If you've ever used a Microsoft computer, and this video isn't about destroying Microsoft, but if you have used a Microsoft computer, you'll know how slow it can be over time. When you first buy a Microsoft computer, it may work perfectly fine for the first few weeks, but then when you add more and more software, you see that it takes longer to boot up in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever you boot up your computer. And that can be really, really, really frustrating. Now, Chrome OS, you don't get none of that. It doesn't matter whether you've had the laptop for a week or you've had it for 2 years. When you press that power on button, you're going to, after you've typed in your user ID and your password, you're going to be on that desktop within seconds, and that is not an exaggeration, literally like 7 seconds. And you can open an internet browser and be browsing the internet all within 10 seconds. You won't be able to do that with a Microsoft computer, so that's one of the big advantages. Another advantage is that they're really easy to use. It's unlike what you would have experienced with a Microsoft computer. It's so much easier to use. Essentially, it's a desktop, it's a browser, and there's a few other web apps you can use. In the last couple of years, Android apps have now become compatible with the Chromebook, which is great, which we'll go on to in a second. But that's one of the great advantages, is that they're really easy to use and they're really quick. Another great advantage is that they're really secure. They're without question the most secure consumer computer you will use, and that isn't just me saying that, because obviously I love the Chromebook. Experts around the world also say that. It is a very secure computer. It has regular updates every 6 weeks, and if there's a security issue and they need to put a patch in place, then that can be 2 weeks updates sometimes if that's necessary. And you won't actually see them updates happen because it all happens in the background, so it's great. As I said, I don't want to keep on going at Microsoft, but you've got to compare them to something. And with a Microsoft computer, an update can take hours. It's crazy. With a Chromebook, that isn't there. It's done within 30 seconds. You won't even see the update take place. So that's another reason why Chromebooks are great, is that they're secure. You don't need antivirus software. There's some people who say that can't be possible, but you don't, because it's all built into the Chrome OS system, operating system. So you don't need antivirus, you don't need to worry about anything like that. The browser that you use, because it's Chrome OS, is Chrome browser itself is really secure. So there's none of that to worry about. It means you don't have to pay for antivirus software, and it means you don't have to worry about getting a virus on a Chromebook, because you can't. And it doesn't matter what anyone tells you, it's not possible to get a virus on a Chromebook. Another great thing about Chrome OS and Chromebooks in general is that you don't have to deal with errors. Unlike other operating systems where if you don't really know how technology works and you're not really interested in knowing how technology works, it can be really frustrating trying to fix problems you might get on a Microsoft computer. Here we go again. I'm going to mention Microsoft a lot in this video, unfortunately, because you need to do the comparison. And with Chromebooks, you just don't have them problems. You're not going to have the errors. It's just not going to happen. If you do have a problem, unlikely, but if you do, there's a power wash function, and that's very similar to doing a factory reset on a mobile phone. Obviously, you need to make sure you back up your data first, but once you've done that and you power wash, you'd have your Chromebook will be back to normal. However, I will say, at first I used to power wash my Chromebooks just to see what it did, but now I don't do it. I don't need to. It's very, very rare that you need to power wash a Chromebook. The only time really is if there is a serious problem or you want to sell it. And then obviously if you want to sell it, you don't want to be having all of your information on a laptop that you're going to sell to someone else who you don't know. You do need a Google account for Chromebooks because it's all based around a Chrome OS operating system. So when you get a new Chromebook, the first thing it will do is ask you for your Google account, or it will give you the option to create a Google account. Creating a Google account means you'll have an email address, so it'll be whatever at gmail.com, but that account then is also used to log in to your Chromebook. It comes with 15 gigabytes of Google Drive. It used to be Google Drive, it's now called Google One or One, which is cloud storage. It comes with 15 gigabytes free, which is good because the Chromebook is a cloud-based operating system. And what I mean by that is, it's much better to get into the habit of saving your files in the cloud, because that's the future. That's where we are heading in the future. And it's been seamlessly done, the Chromebook, with Google One, the cloud drive. It's seamlessly, it's so easy to save your files and retrieve your files from the cloud on your Chromebook. It's excellent. So by doing that, you will save space on your actual laptop. And it means if you do have a situation where you need to do a power wash or you want to sell your computer, you don't need to worry about files. Obviously you can store files locally, but if you can, you should try and get into the habit of storing them in the cloud as well. So if we're going to storage, we're mentioning storage. Chromebooks typically used to only come with very small amounts of storage, and that's because it's a cloud-based computer. However, over the last few years, storage has actually started to increase on Chromebooks, and the reason for that is because you can now use Android apps on the Chromebook, and that was a bit of a game changer for the Chromebook. It was great already, but now you can use Android apps. It's just the same as using an Android app on your phone. That's all you've got on your Chromebook as well. So it's great for using Android apps, but the Android apps do take up your local storage. So if you're buying a Chromebook and you're looking to install plenty of Android apps, you do need to consider the amount of storage that you'll need for whatever you want to do on your Chromebook. When it comes to RAM, again, Chrome OS is lightweight compared to other operating systems, but the RAM, you'll also need the RAM depending on what you're going to do. I would say minimum really nowadays for a Chromebook is 4 gigabytes of RAM. If you're going to get a higher spec Chromebook with a higher processor, talking into the Intel i3 onwards, then you'd want more RAM. If you're going to get a budget Chromebook, Intel Celeron processor, there's no real point going over the 4 gigabyte of RAM. It would never use it. The processor will bottleneck the RAM, so it would make no sense to do so. Now, in relation to the processor, as I've just mentioned, budget Chromebooks generally come with an Intel Celeron processor, and they work perfectly fine. If you're just looking for a Chromebook to surf the internet, do some word processing, do some spreadsheets, watch the occasional movie on Netflix, then you shouldn't really have any problems with an Intel Celeron. That being said, when you get to streaming on Netflix, if you're going to start going into the 1080p region, you may see that a budget Chromebook wouldn't be suitable. You'd want to go for maybe a mid-range Chromebook, because then you will have a 1080p display, and they'll also have a better processor to deal with streaming high-resolution movies. One thing that you may not really get to grips is at the beginning, because it was a bit strange for me back in 2011 when the Chromebook originally launched, was that you don't install programs the same as you do on a Microsoft computer. So I used to always install lots of programs on my Microsoft computers, and whenever I got a new one, I'd get my hard drive out and start installing my programs again. You don't do that on a Chromebook because it's cloud-based, there's no need for it. That has caused some controversy with some people, because some people love Microsoft Office, which I understand. You know, Microsoft Excel, I'm not going to say it's not one of the, well, I would say it is the best spreadsheet program out there, because it is, and I'm not going to, deny that that's the case. So in relation to that, you wouldn't be able to install Microsoft Office on your Chromebook. So I need to get that out there now. Because the amount of comments I've seen when people have been buying Chromebooks, they've returned the products, and in their comments they put, oh, you can't even install Microsoft Office, what a load of rubbish. Now that's wrong, it doesn't mean that it's rubbish, it means you didn't do your homework into what computer you was buying. Yes, you can't install Microsoft Office as installing it's a program, but you can, all software companies are now going to the cloud. So there's Office 365, which is cloud-based. By all means, you can use that on your Chromebook if you get an account with it. Also, the Chromebook does come, as soon as you open up a Google account, that does give you access to Google's own software suite, and that includes a word processor, a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet works absolutely fine. There's a lot of functions on there. There's some functions on there which you don't even get on Excel, which are really good. So it is a really good spreadsheet program, and you've got other programs as well, software suites. Adobe, they're all going into the cloud now as well. So the issue about not being able to install programs on a Chromebook, it may have been an issue quite a few years ago, but now that issue is getting less and less by every day, because we're all moving into the cloud. That's where we're going. It won't be a case that you'll install programs locally in the future. The business sector, of course, that's a different thing. They've got all their legacy systems, but for individuals, consumers, it's just not needed. One thing you do need to bear in mind when buying a Chromebook is that it comes with updates to keep it secure, Chrome OS. Now the updates range from 6 years up to 8 years, depending on the Chromebook you buy. So if you buy a Chromebook in 2020 and the hardware inside that Chromebook is the latest generation, for example, the processor is 10th generation, then that Chromebook will get guaranteed updates for 8 years. A Chromebook created before 2019, the updates are guaranteed for 6 years, some are 6.5 years. Now, why that is important for most people is that once the updates you no longer get updates on your Chromebook, you can still use the Chromebook, but you will no longer receive automatic updates. And what that means is that if there are security flaws that are found and your Chromebook's no longer receiving updates, then that could potentially put you at risk. However, that being said, you need to also bear in mind how many people have a laptop for more than 6 years. I've never owned a laptop for more than 6 years. I think the maximum I've ever owned a laptop for is about 4 years. Most of the times because, well, if I'm being honest with you, it was previous because I was buying Microsoft laptops and they're dead after 4 or 5 years anyway. They're just obsolete. You have to get rid of them. The hardware is no good anymore. It just can't keep up with the operating system they've advanced. So you don't have that problem with the Chromebook. So yes, there's no reason why you can't have a laptop more than 6 years. But generally speaking, I keep mine for about 4 years, get a bit bored and I want something new, more modern. So that is something you do need to bear in mind. If you want the most out of the Chromebook for your money, always check to see when the update's finish, and it's called the Auto Update Expiry Date. I think I've got that right, the AUE date, so that's what Google call it, or the Auto Update Policy, somewhere along those lines. When you get a Chromebook, you can check on the settings what that date is, or if you haven't bought a Chromebook yet and you want to see when the updates finish, then obviously do a bit of homework. If you go onto Google and search for AUE Chromebook, go onto the Google website and it will have a list of all the Chromebooks and the AUE date for that specific Chromebook. So that is important. A lot of people make big noise about this, saying, oh, this makes Chromebooks not very good. I don't agree in the slightest, because as I said, who owns a laptop for more than 6 years? What are you expected to get from a laptop that's 6 years old compared to a laptop that you can get which is, you know, just been created in the last few months? The technology advantages will be so different that who wouldn't want to then upgrade to a better laptop? I think the issue around it is that people don't necessarily realise that the auto update policy, it's not relating to when you bought the laptop. So if you buy the laptop in 2020, that doesn't mean that you're going to get 6 years of updates. It depends on when the laptop was manufactured. So if the laptop was manufactured in 2018, the updates would start from that date. So that would essentially mean by 2024, the updates would stop. So it's important if you're buying on the second-hand market more than if you're buying a brand new Chromebook. There's a lot more information on my website about the auto update expiry date. I've gone on about it quite a lot as if it's an issue. Like I said, I personally don't see it as a problem, but I need to address it because I know there's some people who do think it's not very great. But you show me a Microsoft laptop that will last you longer than 5 years, I don't think you'll be able to. And if you do, it's unlikely it's going to be able to cope with the latest operating system, therefore it's also at risk. When it comes to playing games on your Chromebook, you've got two options really. You've got Android apps, there's loads of games on Android apps. Now I totally appreciate Android app games are more games you want to play when you've got a bit of time to spare and you just want to have a mess about. They're not serious computing games, and I totally get that, I completely agree. However, now, like I said, everything's going in the cloud. That is also the case with gaming as well. Sony have cloud-based gaming, Nvidia has cloud-based gaming, and Google has brought in their own cloud-based gaming, Stadia as well, or Stadia, whichever way you want to call it. Now you can obviously use Stadia and you can use Nvidia on your Chromebook, so you can play the latest cutting-edge games on your Chromebook. Also, hopefully in the future, but it's not completely confirmed yet, Steam are working with Google to make a Linux app for the Chromebook, and that would mean then you would have access to all of the Steam games, which are more down my route because I prefer more strategy simulation style of games rather than arcade based games. So that's something really interesting to look forward to in the future. I just touched on Linux apps there. Chromebooks, not all of them, but the later ones have got Linux app support. Now, the Chrome OS is actually based on a Linux kernel, so it is Linux based, and that's one of the reasons why it's very secure as well, because Linux is the most secure operating system in the world. Any supercomputer from any country most likely be using Linux because of the security. However, it's also one of the more complicated operating systems to use, and that's where Chrome OS isn't complicated to use at all. It's fantastic. But when you get to Linux apps, the issue at the moment is that Linux apps have not got to a stage where they've developed enough that they're going to be ready for everyone. I don't mind using the Linux apps. Personally, I prefer a computer that's easy to use, so I've got more time to do what I want to do, rather than messing about finding out how I launch a program. And that's the problem with Linux apps at the moment. It's just not there. But it's something to bear in mind if Linux apps are important to you, that you need to make sure the Chromebook that you're buying does support Linux apps. Most of the later ones do, the more higher spec mid-range Chromebooks definitely do. Maybe some of the budget ones don't, which isn't really a problem. You can expect to use Linux apps on a budget Chromebook. Something else that you'll love about the Chromebook in general is that the battery life is really good for laptops, which is really important if you want a laptop that you want to use on the move. If you're buying a laptop to take out with you, out and about, or to work every day, you want a laptop where the battery is going to last. Chromebook battery life is fantastic, and that's because of the Chrome OS operating system is so lightweight. It doesn't use much of the processing power to operate, so you generally get around, I would say minimum, and this really is minimum, 7 hours, and that would be from a high-spec Chromebook, but then most Chromebooks range more in the 9 to 12, even 13 hours of battery life, which is absolutely fantastic. That's all-day laptoping without having to charge your computer, which is really, really, really good. Now, in relation to the type of Chromebooks you can buy, there's two types. There's just a laptop, which is as it is, it's just a laptop, and you can use it as a laptop on a daily basis. But you also get a hybrid, which is a 2-in-1 Chromebook, and what that means is the actual that's the laptop like that, and you can also turn it around, click it around. Gotta be careful I don't click on any ads because I'm on my website. I don't want to do that. Let me just move to Google. Yeah, so you can use it as a tablet. So that's in tablet form, and it can be used as a laptop as well. So that's what a hybrid 2-in-1 Chromebook is. This is a traditional laptop. This is one of my favourite. I wish I had my original Chromebook, which was the HP 11. Unfortunately, I gave that to a friend who needed a laptop, which I sort of regret now. This was my Toshiba Chromebook 2, which was an excellent Chromebook at the time. It's at its day, unfortunately. It still gets updates. When we was talking about updates earlier, this does still get updates. I think they run out this year. It's why I've kept it, because I'm going to show that you can still use them even after the update period's gone, and it will be absolutely fine. The screen on this is great, by the way, fantastic, considering it's quite a few years old. But yes, that's a laptop version, so you can't, that's as far as it goes, you can't put it into a tablet version. So the hybrids do obviously sell well. A lot of people like the hybrid style Chromebooks. I do like them, but I'm not that amazed about them as some people are. They are good, like I said, so you can put them in tent mode like that, which is great, or you can put them on a flat surface like that. That's my preferred option. If I'm on a train going away, that's fine. The issue for me is when you've got it in tablet mode, I still struggle with this idea that there's a keyboard what I'm touching underneath, and I just can't get over that. So although I love hybrid Chromebooks, I don't think they're essential. I think what's more essential on a Chromebook today is that it's a touchscreen. If you're using Android apps, you really want to have a Chromebook that has a touchscreen like this one does. Not that you can really tell right now, but yeah, it allows you to move up and down, and I think that's really essential. So that's in tablet mode, you can use the touchscreen. However, if it isn't a hybrid and it's just a laptop, as long as it's got a touchscreen, then you're fine, you can do what you want. Where on the older ones here, they don't have touchscreen, which was great at the time because you couldn't use Android apps, but now you can. I personally cannot understand why anybody would want to buy a Chromebook without a touchscreen if you'll be using Android apps, because using Android apps without a touchscreen is not pretty, it's not nice at all. I just don't understand it. So you've got to watch that as well, because manufacturers for some reason are still bringing out Chromebooks without a touchscreen. Not too sure why. Maybe they're just going for the market who will only use a Chromebook as a laptop just to surf the internet, do some word processing, watch some movies. So that's fine. If that's all you need, then you don't need to necessarily go for hybrid. But it's just so you know, there is two different types of Chromebooks that you can get. Also, just if you're wondering, I don't know if you can see it, I've got displays here. I've got two displays. They're actually connected to a Chromebox, and that's the desktop type computer I was referring to earlier. I'm not going to get it out because it's all connected to lots of different leads. But if you want a desktop style Chrome OS computer, then the Chromebox is great. They're not as popular as the Chromebook, but I think they're excellent if you need to be productive, if you've got to get on with your work. Laptops are fine, but the good thing about the Chromebox is you can connect an external keyboard, external mouse, external displays. You've got better options of how you want to set it up rather than with a laptop you're stuck with what you're given essentially. So I hope I've covered most things that you need to know about a Chromebook if you're buying a Chromebook today. It's definitely something, whereas a few years ago there was still a bit of hesitation around Chromebooks and people were still not really wanting to move away from Microsoft or Apple or any other computer on a different operating system. That's definitely changed over the last few years. In America, education market has been Chrome OS for quite a few years now, compared to Apple, which used to have a good market in the education sector. It's now mainly Chrome OS, and that's also happening in the UK as well now. A lot of education sectors are going to Chrome OS, and the reason for that is because, like I says, they're quite cheap to get into. The entry-level models you can get quite cheaply, and they're so easy to use. You spend more time doing what you want to do rather than spending more time doing what you don't want to do, which is dealing with viruses, which is dealing with errors, which runtime errors, you name it, hardware issues. You're not going to have them problems with a Chromebook. So I would definitely, if you are looking to buy a brand new computer, Chromebook, I would definitely consider. It can do almost anything you can do on a Microsoft computer. I will say there is some truth to the fact that if you need to do video editing, although you can video edit on a Chromebook, at the moment, yes, you might want to use an Apple Mac or a Microsoft computer. I'm not going to deny that. And also if you want to do intensive image editing, I'm not talking about basic images here, I'm talking about images that are hundreds of megabytes in size and you really need to do some good design work with them. Again, you're more than likely going to go down the Apple iOS route. But for everything else, and that includes games now, which is really good, generally speaking, you can do it on a Chromebook. Yes, strategy games and stuff like that, not just yet, because to do that, it would have to be a complete change in the operating system, and it would need a dedicated graphics card as well. So I'm not too sure whether that's ever going to happen. Maybe, who knows. But at the moment, you can play games like what you would expect to play on a PS4 console, for example, through Stadia. So that's definitely no longer an issue either for the Chromebook. I love Chromebooks, and I think that's quite obvious. But I also love technology. I've always loved technology, so I'm a bit of a geek, you know. I love getting down and into it. But since moving to the Chromebook, I realised the amount of time I used to waste with the Microsoft operating system. It was just, I just can't even think going back. And I still use it. I still use my Microsoft computer if I want to play certain games. But turning that computer on, waiting for 30 seconds, waiting for another 30 seconds, then it decides to want to do an update. That update can take 30 minutes, then it comes back on, then it needs to install the updates. Before I know it, it's been an hour since I turned the computer on to play a game. Then you load up the desktop, takes a while, you click on Chrome, takes 2 minutes to load up Chrome. It's like, what is that all about? And you know, I'm not talking about a computer with low specs. This is an Intel i7, amazing graphics card. It's got everything it needs to run correctly, but it just can't because it uses Microsoft Windows. It's as simple as that. In Chrome OS, you will not have them problems. Trust me, the one thing you'll love when you move to Chromebook is that it's fast, it's secure, and it's got a great community behind it as well now, both in the more in the USA, you know, definitely it is more in the USA, but there's also a community in the UK. And as it rises in popularity, which it will do, you'll see more and more great products come out. So I hope you've really enjoyed the video. If you have, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I will bring out further videos in the future about Chrome OS, about the Chromebook. So yeah, thank you for watching.